Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Tech Insights. I'm Jed Wallace, the Tech Marketing Manager at Cohesity. And today I'm excited. We're joined by Lorenzo Galeli. Lorenzo, it's great to have you. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jed. It's been good to actually be here as well. So I'm the product manager for Recovery Agent, looking after cyber and disaster recovery at Cohesity.
Thanks for that. So, guys, today we're diving into recovering with confidence, speed, and flexibility and security. When disaster strikes or ransomware hits, recovery is where your strategy proves itself. So, too often plans are either outdated or manual, or, it's hard to just keep up with today's threats. So, let's go ahead and dive in. So, Lorenzo, what are some of the important factors when it comes to recovery that customers care about?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So some of the misconceptions really is around, what do I mean by recovery? So most of our customers, what's really important to them is about confidence in the actual recovery process itself. And really, the other guiding factor, I guess, is how long it actually takes to recover. Those are critical because really the impact to downtime affects business. So understanding how long it's going to take to bring things back online is key to that. The other aspect is around, what scenarios are you really preparing for? Is it a cyber incident response? Is it going to be disaster recovery? Or are you just want to just validating your backups are actually working? That's quite key as well. And the last driving factor is around flexibility. So typically I may have a need to recover my data somewhere. Having the foresight to think about where it's going to go in the event of a disaster or an impact is critical as well. So flexibility, where to recover, is key as well.
Yeah, I feel like everybody wants instant recovery until you ask if they've tested it in the last 6 months or so. And it's like, well, we meant instant-ish. So confidence, speed, and the flexibility are definitely great themes. So when it comes to recovery time objectives, are there other things that customers should think about?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the, I guess, misconceptions, really. It's not about how long it's going to take things to restore. There's other factors that are wrapped around that. The length of time these systems are going to take to become active and responsive, that's critical as well. And then also thinking about other processes which could affect that recovery time. So, for example, you've got some systems, you maybe want to scan those for any threats or malware. That's going to affect your recovery time as a whole as well. And then thinking about, I guess, human processes, if there's going to be any type of handoff between teams in relation to like networking or application owners, all of those really are going to affect your recovery time objective at the end of the day. And that's really where the benefit of Recovery Agent comes in. It helps you and guides you in relation to understanding what your actual recovery time looks like during various operations, etc. as well.
Yeah, totally. It's not just about how fast you restore, it's how fast you can actually use the systems. Nobody wants to declare victory if everything's crawling at 5% performance. And those human approvals and stuff. We've all seen that one Slack message which sits unanswered for like 20 minutes, and then the recovery's just sitting there holding up. So you talked about confidence in the recovery process. Now, can you tell us how that's achieved?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways in which you can probably achieve that, really. So really you need to understand what the process is going to look like. So documenting that is critical. That can be done through a number of ways. You could be using tabletop exercises where you sit down, you understand what you need to achieve, and then bring in the right folks to actually achieve that, and also the processes wrapped around that. Testing that strategy is also key as well. So being able to do this on a regular basis and rehearsing the process, is key. Additionally, the ability to highlight and track drift in that process, understanding where those gaps are, and being able to respond to those gaps and fulfill those in respect of that process. Also things like regular testing, being able to perform those on a regular basis. Everyone has the the idea of, oh yeah, we need to test this application, but to
Yeah.
sit down, and go through that on a regular basis, most customers don't do that. So having that mentality to do that is key. And again, that's really where Recovery Agent comes in. It's trying to provide that ability to create these workflows, understand what those look like, and then operate against those as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like fire drills. You don't want to discover the exits are blocked during a fire. I mean, environments do drift. So, what worked 6 months ago might not be today. Rehearsing regularly, it definitely builds that muscle memory for when things definitely go sideways. I know in my experience, I've worked at a lot of different places, especially in the government sector. Um, it's imperative to have those playbooks, or those run books. People use different terms, and do run through those DR practices, whether it's cyber or a hurricane or something like that, to make sure that you can recover. You're communicating with the right folks, and nothing falls through the cracks.
Yeah.
So we hear the term clean room a lot. For our customers in the marketplace, the intent to use these, where do these fit into the recovery?
Yeah, so first, I guess we need to understand the definition of clean room. If we look at, I guess, the marketplace in general, and speaking to customers, their understanding of what a clean room actually is, it could be that, we want to use a clean room for recovery purposes. Okay, so I need to recover something. I need to recover those for a particular need. And that's going to be just standing up those instances or workloads in an isolated environment such. Another definition of a clean room is, we know it really from Cohesity as a forensic need. Okay, so it's really around the intent. I want to recover something in a clean room, which I can isolate. I can then identify, remediate any forensic needs or malware interactions or IOCs on those workloads, and eventually move it elsewhere to like staging and so forth as well. So the intent is really important to understand, what the purpose of that clean room is. Also, when we define the clean room itself or forensic needs, it's understanding that whole process. So if I'm going to remediate these affected systems, once they're remediated, I'll pass them off to maybe that staging area that I've mentioned, where we can patch those, look at vulnerabilities. We can then re-protect those, ready to go back out into production as well. And really, that whole process is very, very important, how we define it and understand the criticality and interactions with the various teams of like forensic analysis, as well as backup and recovery, administration, etc. as well. And that's really what Recovery Agent is trying to do. It's trying to provide that interaction for clean room by maybe defining the infrastructure required for clean room, and also things like the jump bag for all my relevant tools and artifacts that I need during that clean room process as well.
Yeah, I love that distinction. I mean, I would say clean room is definitely not a one size fits all. I mean, sometimes it's forensics or staging, safe space.
Yeah.
But it only works if the intent is clear, right? Investigate versus validate clean workloads. That choice definitely changes how you build it. So you mentioned scenarios such as cyber and disaster recovery.
Yeah.
Could you highlight for us any important distinctions between those two?
Yeah, I mean, so if I go back in my career, DR was one of the key things that I've sort of driven throughout my career, looking at things like financial sectors or telco media. And really, DR is about how quick I can get things back up and running. Okay, looking at the minimal data loss in respect of disaster recovery. I see it quite a lot, obviously, in the media in relation to systems are down or outages. We had one you probably saw the other day around AWS. Loads of app systems. How
Right.
quick can we get things back up and running? Because it's affecting my daily life as well as business, etc.
Showing that event definitely showed some of the weak points we still
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Absolutely. My kids were going mental because Roblox was down. But anyway.
Yeah. So mine too.
Yeah. But then when we look at a cyber response, I guess it's similar to DR, but it's really more careful approach in relation to recovery, making sure that when you are recovering things that have been impacted through a cyber incident, that you're confident again in that cleanliness of that data once you're going to be promoting it back into production. So understanding that concern and how you manage that approach is critical. Slightly different to DR, where you want to do it quickly as you want in respect of that. The other thing about cyber response is understanding the recovery points that you may want to use for recovery purposes. Is it clean? When was it last scanned? Are there any IOCs or malware within those workloads? So understanding that need and also how we can create a solution around it to give you a actually faster recovery time objective, not merely through the actual recovery itself, but identifying the best possible recovery to use during that event is critical as well. And again, that's slightly different than DR, as we've spoken on. So it's all around, that impact. And obviously leveraging the clean room in relation to that approach is critical as well. That's something you typically don't have with DR. You don't have a clean room.
And with recovery agent, you're getting this ability to test ahead of time, and to automate a lot of these recovery objectives.
Absolutely.
And as well as, like, if I'm not mistaken, you could scan and you could rehearse and stage and all these other things, all in you call them blueprints, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's the defining part really of the solution. It's that ability to stitch these workflows together that you may want to scan or do recoveries or even inject some business logic through things like scripting. So validating the application is responsive and is working as you think it should be working. Again, that's critical and really whole part of that solution as well.
I mean, circling back about a little bit about something you said earlier, I think kind of hits on my experience as a practitioner is the ability to not only recover fast, but knowing what you're recovering, right? Identifying those workloads ahead of time. I mean, could you tell folks how critical that is to identify what systems need to come online first, and how they could benefit from that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's all part of that tabletop exercise as such, really.
Right.
Identifying the relationships between those workloads. This database is using an application stack, let's say, and what other interactions does it need? Is it using some sort of database services, etc.? So understanding those relationships helps you build that critical application stack as such, really, where you have that visibility across the board. So it's not purely just one system. There's some relationship there.
Yeah, you're going to want that Active Directory server, the DHCP server. You're going to want DNS. If you have an in-house application, you're going to want, let's just say it has a web server, an app server, a SQL server that make up that in-house application. You're going to need that whole stack for users to log in and to start using that in-house application again to get back to business and things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, AD is an important aspect as well. If you are looking for a recovery solution for that, then Cohesity has got the solution via Semperis, where we can orchestrate recovery for things like AD, etc. as well, which is critical, obviously, for working if that's been impacted.
Amazing. So that definitely nails it, in regards to DR is, you want to get it back online fast, and cyber recovery is, hey, let's get it back online safely, verifying that clean data, doing forensics, which takes time, but it definitely beats reinfecting your environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that said, I think some of my key takeaways, from our discussion is, confidence comes from definitely automation, validating your data before you recover it, and just knowing your backups are definitely truly clean. Now, what are your kind of key takeaways here from our discussion today?
Yeah, so the key takeaway, I guess, for me is really, leverage recovery agent. It's there. It's going to assist you through the recovery orchestration capabilities that it has. The ability to prepare yourself in the event of any type of ransomware event. It is part of this solution. It helps you with that regular rehearsal capabilities, understanding what your recovery time is in respect of things like your service level objectives, from maybe the business, or even some compliance and regulatory needs as well.
Right.
So we can also generate things like audit reports, which can tell who did what, when they did it, and what they actually did
I bet
during that
management's
event
happy
as
with
well.
that.
Yeah, and that's one of the, as soon as we show that to customers, what we can
Right.
be doing, that's massive. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
who would have think that reporting in 2025 is that important?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. With regulatory things like DORA, especially here in EMEA, that's key, and we're seeing that in other regions around the world as well for regulatory needs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. To automate and to validate and to know that your backups are actually truly clean.
Yeah,
I would say that's definitely how you can sleep at night,
yeah.
even though ransomware is in the news, it seems like on a daily basis. So, but if you want to see how Cohesity helps make that real, guys, you can come check out Recovery Agent, automation intelligence in your recovery workflows. I want to thank Lorenzo for joining us today, and thank you for your insights. I will remind everybody, please test your plans. Automate what you can, and you'll be able to recover with confidence. So that wraps up another episode of Tech Insights. Thanks everyone for watching. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.